My favorite color is green. For as long as I can remember, that's been my color. And you don't change your favorite color. That's your color. But thinking about that, my loyalty to the color green, it doesn't make much sense on its own. After all, it's just a color. But to me, it's more than a color. In my childhood home, my room had green walls. So every morning I'd wake up and see a forest green surrounding me. And every night I'd go to sleep with those same green walls watching over me, protecting me. To me, green is familiar. It's comforting. It's safe. So it wouldn't make much sense for me to ever like a different color, right? When I was in middle school, I liked this girl. Now, I'd liked girls before, different kinds of girls, but this girl took hold of my thoughts and flooded my body with an adolescent illusion of love. Saying her name loudly was music playing, and saying it softly was almost like praying. You get it. She was a chorus girl. Well, I love to sing. She was a dancing girl, and I danced all the time. And she was a theater girl. And, well, I didn't like theater at the time, but it was because she did the school musical that I all of a sudden loved theater and did the musical too. Now theater's my passion, so it was all adding up. She was a white girl. Hmm. Well, okay, still, that wasn't an issue for me. I grew up in PWIs, predominantly white institutions. I had all types of friends. Race was kind of just colors to me.
Mm.
Different colors, same people. And racism was history to me. From what my white teachers taught out of our American textbooks, racism seemed to end in the 1960s. The point is, I was comfortable liking this girl. I had no reason to think anything of it, and I had no reason to think that anyone else would think anything of it. And then I got home. My parents and I are close, so I tell them about my day. Inevitably, I told them about the girl. I said, "There's this girl I like at school. She's in chorus, and they cut me off. And they go, is she black?" And as they looked at me, waiting for a response, I started to feel pressure in my chest. I felt guilt
Mm.
over a crime I didn't know I committed. The green walls of my childhood home began to close in on me. I paused and then said, "No, she's not black." And they looked at each other, back at me, and asked, "Hispanic?" More pressure built up. More guilt crept in. The walls got closer and closer. I was taking a test. I knew I was about to fail. I said, "No, she's white." It's time they looked at each other and said nothing. The unspoken version of, "I'm not mad, just disappointed," which we all know is worse. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't a woe is me story of forbidden love. No, it didn't always feel like it. I was free to like whomever I wanted. And my parents, though they have their preferences and like to remind me of them, are ultimately respectful of whatever decision I make. This story is more coming of age, learning that racism didn't end after the civil rights movement, learning that code switching is a survival technique more than it is a social skill, and learning about the meaning behind colors. That being a black man meant more than just having black skin, and that liking a white girl, no matter how I felt about it, would never look as normal as I hoped it would. Because after all, what's the opposite of white? I remember all the times my parents visited me in elementary school, eating lunch with me or talking with my teachers, and they teased me about if I had crushes on some girls. And I remember that all the girls they pointed to and asked about, the ones they hoped I had crushes on, they all had skin like mine, as though they were steering me towards them. Now, granted, I did like some of those girls. In fact, I'd written a love poem to one of them in the fourth grade. Didn't go well. But I was confused. While I did like some of those girls they pointed to, some of them annoyed me. And the same was true for every other type of girl I went to school with. So why were my parents so insistent on me sticking to one color? My mother admitted to having a fear of me with a white woman because she knew stories that I didn't, history that I was never taught, names that I never learned. But I learned. They taught me about Trayvon Martin, the importance of appearances. They opened my eyes to Kill a Mockingbird and the injustice of the justice system, and most importantly for my mother, Emmett Till. And that in the case of a white woman's word against a black man, well, the odds would always be against me. My mother is a green wall in my childhood room, with the duty of watching over me, protecting me. And for her, what I had written off as history was reality. My father came in at a different angle, a wall adjacent to my mother. To him, it's about the community, giving back, intentionally finding love in those who loved you. My sisters and I grew up celebrating Kwanzaa, watching The Cosby Show, Good Times, The Jeffersons, A Different World, Fresh Prince, That's So Raven. Representation matters. Family matters. No pun intended. And so to him, intentionally building a black family is important. And while I know my parents would nod along to every girlfriend I bring home, I know what they're hoping for. I can't say it doesn't make sense. In fact, sometimes it's frustrating how much sense it makes. I remember thinking, why didn't the other kids have to think about this? They seem free to like whomever they want, so why can't I? I just left that question as memory, but I still think about it today. Simply put, life's not always fair, especially for a black man. I understand what my parents want, what my community wants. And in my life, I'm dedicated to giving back to my community, helping to build it up and strengthen it using my talents. But love is tricky. Love is patient, love is kind. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. But to me, love is also blind. It can be found in anyone, any race, any gender. It is not to be understood, but embraced. I can't control love. But while love is blind, people often are not. Every color has a meaning, and every person has a story. I'm proud to be black. And in my story, whomever I love will not be dictated by the color of their skin. However, whomever I love must understand what the color of my skin means. Thank you.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.